The Place Overview and Scrutiny meeting on Thursday, the 2nd of October 2025. It's now 7 p.m. and I would like to start this meeting. I would like to draw your attention to the evacuation procedures which can be found in the agenda under the information for members of the public and councillors section. I would like to remind you that under the Overview and Scrutiny procedure rules, Part 1, Paragraph 10, as set out in the Constitution, this meeting shall have a maximum duration of 2.5 hours. Therefore, if at 9:30 p.m. there are items remaining, the agenda item under consideration will be concluded within 10 minutes, followed by a vote, and items not yet considered may be deferred to a future meeting. I would also like to remind everyone present that this meeting is being live streamed and recorded for publication on the Council's website. With that, item 1 on the agenda are apologies for absence. Lucy, I know Councillor Green has sent his apologies. Anyone else?
Councillor Cherry as well.
Okay, noted. Item 2 on the agenda, the minutes. I move that the minutes of the meeting held on the 26th of June 2025, as outlined in the agenda, are approved as a correct record. Are there any comments on the accuracy of the minutes? Approved, everyone? Okay, thank you very much. The minutes are approved. Item 3 on the agenda, declarations of interest. Does anyone have any declarations of interest to make? Councillor Lydiard.
Thanks, Chair. Just noticed there's a reference to Impulse Leisure, and I'm on the board of Impulse Leisure. It's just a very small line of finances, but I thought I'd better mention it.
Thank you, Councillor Lydiard. That's noted. Thank you. Item 4. Unplanned scrutiny items and members' right of reference. I have not been notified of any unplanned scrutiny items or members' right of reference. So with that, that leads us to item 5, which is dust in Tilbury. This is a verbal update by Mike Deneen. I know that Mike's been working behind the scenes. We've had a few meetings. He's also been to forum meetings, and he has got a bit of an update for us. So with that, Mike, would you mind putting your agenda forward, please? Thank you.
Certainly, thank you, Chair. I think you've just updated everyone. No, I have got a slightly more detailed update. So this is an update regarding the dust situation faced by Tilbury residents and my action to meet with various individuals and organisations as previously agreed by this committee. My initial action was to meet with the chair of the Tilbury Residents Forum, alongside the chair of this committee, Councillor Jones, and also the chair of the Health and Wellbeing Board, Councillor Hooper. This meeting was very constructive and allowed for the residents of Tilbury to explain the situation they face and how they have been affected by the dust for a number of years. After this meeting, I was then able to attend a dust management meeting. This involved individuals from the Port Health Authority, the Environment Agency, organisations that are based at the port, as well as my own Air Quality Officer, Peter Bond. During this meeting, I explained my position and that the residents and that of the residents as I understood them, as well as the position of this committee and the Health and Wellbeing Board. It was from this meeting that I've been able to organise a meeting with the Environment Agency later this month, where I will be able to discuss the regulated sites that fall under the Environment Agency's jurisdiction. This contact has already resulted in a visit being conducted at the port by the Environment Agency alongside my Air Quality Officer, and I'm going to look forward to understanding the findings of that visit better later this month when I have my meeting with the Environment Agency. I've also been working internally with colleagues in public health, and between us, we are establishing a call-out process specifically designed for this issue that the residents of Tilbury are facing. This is so that the council can be in a position to respond immediately when required. This would be an out-of-hours service, which currently doesn't exist within the council. This concludes my verbal update to this point, but I do welcome questions from the chair and any member within the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. You did say that you're going to have meetings with various companies in Tilbury. I think you said there's 46 companies. Is there something like that, numbers?
No, Chair. I'm looking to, at the moment, to speak to two particular companies of concern. From there, I'll develop, if needed, onto other companies within the ports.
Thank you. Any members have questions? Councillor Kelly, thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for the verbal update. Just a quick one. With Tilbury 3 on the horizon, is there an opportunity to maybe transfer some of the more problematic businesses away from Tilbury Town into Tilbury 3? So, as an example, the bulk terminal deals with a lot of sort of agriculture, which you would imagine in high winds then hits Tilbury Town. But obviously, Tilbury 3 is quite far away from the town centre, actually more considerably further away. Is there a plan in place that we could potentially move some of the more agricultural bulk products to Tilbury 3 in the future? Or is there any sort of idea or plan on how we could keep an eye on those businesses? Thank you.
I would love to be able to answer the question, but in truth, that isn't my area of expertise, and it's not something that we as a department within the enforcement team would be looking at. It's certainly something that I can take away and discuss with other colleagues throughout the council, though, and I'm sure we would be able to get some level of update back to you, Councillor, from that.
Councillor Lydiard.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks for your report. Tilbury people feel that their health is being affected by the dust, and if you look at the statistics, the mortality is much earlier than in other parts of Thurrock, and they blame the dust from the port. What information and what can you do about that? Because those sort of rumours and those beliefs are right across Tilbury, and I think there might be some other reasons why the health statistics are poor in Tilbury. Your thoughts on that?
I think it's an area that obviously concerns residents, and because it concerns residents, it should concern the council. However, I don't always believe that just because we're talking around the dust that it just becomes an issue for myself. So that's why I've been speaking to public health and working quite closely with them. There is a number of issues that can relate to an individual's health and life expectancy, not all linked to simply dust. And I think it's important for all of those areas to be explored. I do know, I think approximately 4 to 5 years ago, a dust analysis test was completed. So I've asked for the findings of that to be emailed to me. So I'm just waiting to receive those, and then I can understand those. And I will be discussing with public health if there is any benefit to redoing those, because whilst I was at the community forum on Monday evening, it became quite clear that Tilbury 2 has significantly increased the nuisance dust for the residents, and I do believe that test took place prior to Tilbury 2 being formed. So it would be an interesting marker in my opinion, but I will take that away and it will probably form part of one of my updates at a later meeting.
So, just a quick one. Mike, how did the forum meeting go?
I think it's fair that residents are frustrated. They've aired that they don't feel like they've been listened to. I can only talk to what I have promised this committee from my ability to resource this, and I've spoken to those residents, and they're fully aware of what I intend to do, and also explained that the main part for them would be to continue to report. A number of residents complained during the meeting that last Saturday there was a significant dust issue in Tilbury, and when I asked who had reported it, nobody had, because they've always reported it and nothing's ever happened. So I have got to try and change that mindset of the residents, and I'll use this opportunity again to plead to people, you must report it, otherwise I don't have the understanding of the real issues.
So they're fully aware of numbers where to report via yourself and Craig and possibly councillors, yes?
Yes, I explained all, all of the contact points, not only for the Environment Agency, but also for the council. And I've also suggested that the best way that that can take place is online via the form within our report it mechanism on the council's website. That's so that the call is logged, it's referenced, and it can be tracked.
Is there a phone number if something drastic happened, Mike?
The emergency, there is a 24-hour emergency line to the Environment Agency, and that is permanently open. So residents can call that, and residents do call that, because they do understand that the council do not regulate the sites that are causing some of the issues in their opinion. So therefore, they do contact the Environment Agency. In order to contact the council out of hours, if it was a significant event, and what I mean by that is an emergency, then we do have emergency lines and protocols already in place. However, if it's simply a dust issue, that's the process that I'm currently working on with the public health team, and we will be sending that number out via Craig to the Tilbury residents.
Yeah, the reason I ask that question is because we say that obviously a council official has to witness the event, so that's why if something did happen, they can contact you as to go down and witness it, then action can be taken place.
Yep, and that's the process that hopefully I will be sorting out with the public health team, with their cooperation by the end of tomorrow. I've only been dealing with that today.
Councillor Sisterson.
Thank you, Chair. You say they were sort of in agreement. There was a significant dust. They felt they knew that dust was around on the Saturday night. Did residents themselves have a particular notion of where that came from? Have they got their own ideas of what's causing it?
I think the residents believe it is coming from particular companies within the port, but it's very important that that isn't something that my officers will use as evidence. It must be formed by the officer that visits the site, and that's why it's going to be really important to have the out-of-hours line available to residents so that they can call up when the incidents are happening, so that they can be witnessed by the qualified officer.
Okay, any other questions from members? No? Okay, Mike, thanks very much for your report. As this was only a verbal update, are members happy to note the update? They're okay with it, yeah? Okay, thank you. Thanks very much, Mike.
Thank you, Chair.
With that, we'd like to go on to item 6 on the agenda, which is homelessness deep dive review. Can I ask Councillor Hurrell or Claire Demmel to, I know we've got a team down there that's been working hard on this and well overdue review, shall we say. So can I hand it over to you, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to introduce this item on housing solutions. As members will know, this is a statutory service that plays a vital role in supporting some of our most vulnerable residents, whether that's preventing homelessness, providing temporary accommodation, or helping people move on into settled housing. Over recent years, the pressures on the service have increased significantly. Rising demand, limited housing supply, and the escalating cost of temporary accommodation have created real challenges, both for the council and for the families we support. Recognising this, I asked officers to carry out a deep dive review of the service, working alongside me to take an honest and detailed look at where we are, what isn't working, and what needs to change. The review was never about pointing fingers, but about getting the clearest possible picture of the issues so we can put things right. It has highlighted a number of challenges, but also some real opportunities to do things differently, from strengthening prevention to reducing reliance on costly nightly paid accommodation to improving data and processes. Importantly, the findings are not being left on the shelf. They've been translated into an action plan with strong governance around it, including a weekly working group, a monthly board chaired by the Executive Director and myself, and regular reporting into SLT and here at Scrutiny. You're about to hear directly from officers who will take you through the findings and the action plan in more detail. I welcome members' views and challenge. This is exactly the kind of conversation we need to ensure the service is on the right path. This is the start of a long-term transformation, but we are determined to stabilise housing solutions, improve outcomes for residents and bring costs under control. Scrutiny has an important role in holding us to account and helping us shape the way forward. With that, Chair, I'll hand over to officers to take us through the presentation. I look forward to the discussion and to hearing members' perspectives on the review and the action plan. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Hurrell, for your report. What we have said is that everyone's probably had the agenda and read the complete presentation, which is quite in-depth. Are members happy to go straight to questions, or do you want a, should we say, a shortened version of the presentation? What do members feel they would like from officers? Yeah. Happy to go to questions, yes? Or do you need any updates? Councillor Kelly.
Just a brief summary would be sufficient, thank you.
Okay. Claire, a brief summary, please. Thank you.
So we commissioned the Homelessness Deep Dive Review was commissioned via Councillor Hurrell and also through previous conversations with yourself, Councillor Jones, and the previous chair of ONS. So this may seem why it's taken a little while to come to you, but it is an important part of our transformation programme. So there are a number of issues, a number of triggers why we needed to prioritise this over the rest of the housing profile. This sits with the rest, this does sit in housing, but we made a decision to take this out of housing into our place delivery hub, where it gets additional resources assigned to it, so we can really carry out a deep dive review of the service. So there are a number of triggers that alerted us for the need to do this. Rising demand, rising costs, and obviously both a local, regional and national picture of homelessness. We wanted to be on the front foot as much as we could with looking at this, just to let the committee know, so that you know, Chair, we've had the LGA in this week as well, and we're also carried out a deep dive review of the whole of the housing service. We did this in advance because we knew that we were keen to look at the rising costs. So we had an independent national specialist in, nationally recognised specialist in homelessness, and we did this review over 12 weeks to look at sort of every area that we felt needed review. So we looked at leadership and culture, temporary accommodation review and the supply strategy that we currently have in place, whether that's good enough, what we're looking at, where is our supply coming from, are we being cost effective with that. Resettlement and faster discharge from TA, we've got numbers of people sitting in temporary accommodation that we're not discharging sooner, are they sitting in there for weeks, months, years, longer than they should be. And are we investing into prevention and early intervention as we should be? Are the people that are arriving at our door, should they have actually got to our door? And we've all seen the scenes downstairs at the front desk, people turning up at 5 o'clock on a Friday evening. Should we be getting to that stage? Are we doing enough in our preventative work to actually stop that? There's lots of opportunities for us to stop homelessness before we get to that stage. Are we doing enough? You can see from the report we're not doing enough. Is our structure fit for purpose? We know it's not. We've labelled this a housing solutions restructure. We've concentrated on homelessness, but Housing Solutions team is more than just the homelessness service. So have we got the right resources in the right place, doing the right thing at the right time? We know from this restructure we haven't, from this review we haven't. We probably have got the right number of people, but are they doing the right thing to give us the right outcomes for our residents? Data performance and customer insight. We're not, we haven't been, Tony can talk to that later on for you, but are we using the data to inform our decisions? Do we know how many people are coming through our door? What are they coming through for? Are we tracking those from beginning to end? Do we know where people are at any point in their journey, through the homelessness journey? and how can we use data to inform, make better decisions at the start. Governance and oversight. Where is that governance and oversight from decision making in the service all the way through to overview and scrutiny to members? Have you had enough overview and scrutiny and oversight of this service? You haven't. Well, you clearly haven't. And also along with that, member engagement. Are you well informed? Do you know the stats? Are you looking at the right things? Are we giving you the right information? All of those areas, those 8 themes, we know we haven't met the expected standards. So that's why we went into this deep dive review in detail. What we're planning to do is to come back on a frequently agreed basis with yourself to give you an update and to let you know where we're progressing, where we're not progressing as much, but hopefully we will progress at pace and grit and reduce some of the costs and reduce some of the numbers. But we want to be innovative. We want to make sure we're using nationally recognised good practice. We don't want to be insular. We don't want to sort of keep on learning perpetually from ourselves. We want to make sure we're learning. We take the best from the rest of the country, what other people, what other organisations are doing, and make sure we're implementing that to give the best outcomes for our residents. That's it in a nutshell, Chair. Sorry.
Thank you, Claire. This is well overdue. There's no two ways about it. I just wondered, was there ever something like this review carried out before? You know, was it like a thing that, should we say, every so many years it's updated, or people look at it to see how the thing is working, the homelessness? And
well, since I've been here, we haven't carried out a deep dive review, or since it's been under my leadership over the last year or so. We've got a homelessness strategy that went to Cabinet last year that we do need to review. We do need to review that. We need to bring that back. But I don't think it's had enough scrutiny or enough oversight in the past. That's my opinion. And you can see that in the findings. You can see that in the findings. So the answer is no.
I must admit, I was having a cup of tea with Claire, or a cup of coffee, whatever you like to call it, and a cake. And she told me that how she'd been working, because she had spent a lot of time for a couple of weeks as to look at what was going on in that department. And to be quite honest, her findings, it wasn't very good. People were being left, that turn up and just be left sitting there, not knowing what to do. So I really appreciate you going that extra mile as to start to do something.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just say, this is never meant to be a finger-pointing exercise at staff. This is really about our structures and how we've been doing. And sort of, there has been a failure in leadership. We've put some measures, immediate measures in place to address that, but we will be addressing it for a wider restructure. But I'm the Executive Director of Place, so I need to sort of take responsibility for this. But we've got a number of reviews, deep dive reviews that have taken place in the Place Directorate over the last year or so. This is just one in the next tranche. But as I said, we've got a bigger deep dive of the whole of the housing service. But this isn't about the people that are working in the service day to day. It isn't about pointing things at people that have been genuinely trying to run a service with probably little or no support and a lack of resources, or resources have not been aligned in the right way.
Before I ask members if they want to ask any questions, there's a couple of acronyms we got here, MHCLG. I do think that if we have any reports or presentations that are put forward to members, we must know what these acronyms are. We've got MHCLG, we've got PRS, so if we can have them put at the beginning so that we know what we can refer to when we're going through the paperwork. So can you just tell us what they stand for now?
So MHCLG is the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government, and PRS is private rented sector. I can't get my words out. Private rented sector, but take your point on board. Thank you, Chair.
Members have any questions? Right, okay, everyone's jumping in. Councillor Lydiard first.
More of a statement, really, Chair. I really welcome the investment in prevention of homelessness, because at the present moment we're sort of leaving it right to the last minute, and people are in a desperate state, and we don't always we're not always able to work out whether they really are homeless or whether, you know, they really are desperate. So, you know, I think the allocations and homeless staff work very hard indeed, but this will help them enormously.
Come back, Claire? No, okay. Councillor Cecil?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, what actions are in place right now for preventing this homelessness?
Thank you, Councillor. So we've got a range of initiatives in place in terms of preventing homelessness. So when somebody comes in and they're threatened with homelessness rather than actually presenting already homeless, we try and look for ways of keeping them in their own home. So we'll look for possibilities, we'll speak to the household where they're living, we'll see what we can do in terms of maximising their income, we'll look at whether funds such as the DHP can be used to ameliorate any of the challenges that they're facing in their existing household. If that's not possible, then we also encourage them to work with us to secure a private rented sector offer as an alternative home, so that we can plan and move from them directly from where they are into a different property, depending on their circumstances and their needs. If they're a vulnerable individual, we may be looking for a support pathway that is suitable for their particular circumstances. So there's a variety of things that are available, but some of the challenges that we face that become an obstacle to some of those processes are things like the very high caseload that we hold at the moment. So officers are overwhelmed with the number of cases that they currently have, and so they find it difficult to prioritise new ones as they come in. We're about to invest in some training for officers, specialist training around effective casework management and decision making, which again will help support them to do this more effectively. So there are a range of initiatives. There's some challenges, but we're looking to work towards resolving those challenges.
Thank you. Very constructive task.
Councillor Maney.
Thank you, Chair. This is my first time on this committee, so be kind to me. What do you think is fueling the homelessness in Thurrock? I mean, is it following the national trend, or are we doing something wrong here? Is it more localised here?
Thank you. So the broad reasons for homelessness here, the two main reasons are eviction from ASTs and eviction from family and friends. And that's consistent with the majority of authorities that you'll find. Those are the two biggest reasons. One of the potential opportunities going forward is once the Renters Reform Bill is enacted, then the ending of Section 21 evictions, I think, is likely to mean that for some months and possibly for up to a year, there's going to be quite a steep decline in those, because people will just not be quite sure what to do, getting used to the idea of how to do it properly. So there's going to be a little bit of a gap. So we will have an opportunity at that point to try and stabilise our position. So whilst this transformation programme has a lot of initiatives, and we want to try and actively reduce our demand and actively increase our supply of alternative stock that we can move people to, there's also external circumstances like the Renters Reform Bill that, when they get enacted, will have an impact on us, both negative and positive, though, because yes, we'll see a reduction in evictions, but we are also likely to see a potential reduction in PRS acquisitions as well, private rented sector supply that we use to discharge duty.
Thank you for that. That's very helpful. So this may be me being naive, but the outturn report shows there's 5.3 million HRA underspend.
This is general fund. It's
Underspend.
a general funded service. This is in housing, but this is a general funded
Yeah, okay,
service, not
I'll leave
HRA.
that one, yeah. Yeah, I'll leave this one. Be kind to me, Sue, you was. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Maney. I just wondered, TAs, there's me using an acronym now, how many can we call on?
At least you're on the right.
Well, I'm joining the club now, so I come to you again. How many can we call on temporary accommodation? How many can we call upon temporary accommodation? TAs, have we got, what's the number of temporary accommodations? Is there a number as such?
So the temporary accommodation portfolio that we rely on is made up of different parts. So we've got just shy of 220 properties that are owned by the council that are used as temporary accommodation. But the majority of the accommodation that we use is nightly paid accommodation, which we procure from the market on a dynamic basis. So literally, if somebody turns up and says, look, I'm homeless today, we will ring round the suppliers that we work with, look for a property that is suitable for that day, and dynamically procure it. So it's the most expensive part of our portfolio, but it's the dynamic part. And so there isn't a fixed number that we have that moves up,
Thank you, Mo. Councillor Penjela.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity. Thank you for the report. I would like to ask about the temporary accommodation. We can see that 171% increased compared to 2020-25. It's a drastic increase. And also the projected amount value is 9.8 million. Thurrock is already suffering with financially. And this sudden increase, can we know the reason for increase? And also I have one more question about that one, rising demand for service, like homelessness also compared to previous year to this year, 25% has been increased. Like that office already carrying 90 to 110 case overloaded, like 3 times more than normal. So these are the challenging tasks for the officers and those who are involving accommodate the homelessness people and the temporary accommodation to moving into the home. So what challenges exactly currently we are facing and why this sudden change happened? Just I want to know. You have any reasons?
Thank you, Councillor. So we've experienced an increase in homelessness, and we've seen an increase in the number of placements. That's not unique to this authority. The rate of increase is starker than some places. We've seen a more rapid increase in some other authorities, but the increase is consistent with the national trend. And there's 2 levels of increase that push our costs up. One is the increase in the number of households that we have to work with, but secondary to that as well is nationally rents have risen. Private sector rents have gone up, and temporary accommodation rents are a product of those private rented sector rents. So we've seen not just the numbers go up, but the cost of the accommodation that we have to provide has also increased. The point you make about the caseloads of officers is very well made, and it comes back to the issue that Councillor Cecil was talking about earlier in terms of prevention and what can we do to prevent homelessness more effectively. If you have officers with a caseload of 90 to 100, they're never going to be able to do an effective supervision with their it will take half a day just to go through the cases, so it's not practical to do that. So we're working to get the backlog resolved within a matter of months by getting some external resource in that's going to come and help with that. And part of the important purpose of that process is to quickly get caseloads for officers, operational officers, down to, as you said, the 35 or so mark, because then we can practically do casework supervisions with them, and that embeds the prevention work more robustly into that process. We're also getting specialist training, which is coming in November, that is designed to improve their decision making and their ability to process cases effectively. And that training is associated with that training is a set of templates of letters that they will have, which are updated routinely every time there's a change in legislation or a change in case law. So they will always have up-to-date resources to rely on from now on.
Thank you, sir, for the clarification. Just I want to know about this one temporary accommodation, those who are like 175% is increase. All of them within the borough residents or the outside of the borough? How much percentage we are taking is going on from the other boroughs also? People are coming here for the temporary accommodation, isn't it?
So the way the legislation works is that there are 5 tests. One is eligibility, one is homelessness, one is priority need, one is intentionality, and the final one is local connection. So somebody can't just turn up here and make an application if they don't have a local connection. The only circumstances in which they can do that is A, if they have no local connection anywhere, and that applies to certain refugee classes. And the other is if they're a victim of threats of violence from where they're coming from. So those are particular and modest numbers, generally speaking. The majority of these applicants will be local.
Is it possible to get the how many cases outside of borough we have at the moment?
We can provide that. I don't have that to hand, but yes, we can provide that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mo. Councillor Kelly?
Thank you, Chair. So obviously going through the report, there's some hard-hitting criticisms there. I think some of them are put in bullet points and suggesting that at the moment there's no clear structure, no vision and no proactive planning. You mentioned that obviously you're going to monitor the progress going forward. How would we monitor over the next 12 months those 3 bullet points, such as no clear structure, vision or proactive planning, to make sure that we're improving in those areas? Thank you.
So we've developed, which we'll bring back next time, an action plan based on all these findings, and then the proposal would be that we come to place ONS and report back at agreed frequencies. We'll be reporting into SLT. Cabinet will get regular updates, but also I'm going to chair a board that oversees the action plan.
Councillor Kelly?
Brilliant, thank you. And then just one other point. Obviously, we're very lucky and blessed in Thurrock to have some fantastic charities working alongside the council. There's one particular one that has been quite critical recently. I understand it's the Friends of Essex and London Homelessness. They've gone public and said that they feel they've been ignored by the council, even though they've got a track record of expertise in homelessness. Is that criticism fair? And why is it that local charities in the area feel they've been ignored by the council? Thank you.
I think there has been an element of apathy with engagement. I think looking at the teams and the caseloads, which, whilst it's not an excuse, I think people just felt so overwhelmed with the number of caseloads. Any type of prevention and outreach work, that's sort of been left aside. So I think that there has been a theme where teams have just felt they haven't got the time to engage, or it's just too much for them. But that's going to be part of our improvement programme to re-engage with some of our third sector providers in the borough. We can't do this by ourselves. We know we can't do this. Is an us job. This isn't just for the service to deal with. So we will be re-engaging, and we have already engaged with the charity you're talking about.
Thank you, Claire. Councillor Sisterson?
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, it is a huge problem, and not just here. You know, I understand it is a national problem. Well, there's a couple of questions, really. What proportion of our homeless temporarily housed outside of Thurrock? Do we know?
I don't know the proportion that are housed outside, but I can get that figure for you. One of the things that we're looking at the moment, and it's contained in the slides, talks about a renewed emphasis on private rented sector accommodation. So there's a proposal being looked at the moment to increase the incentives that we pay in order to increase the proportion of the supply of PRS. And that proposal includes a proposal to have a higher incentive rate for properties in borough than out of borough, exactly to try and, because we're a net importer of people from London, so we're an attractive place. So if we arrange our incentives to acknowledge that, you know, we want properties here rather than there, wherever there is, then hopefully that will improve.
Yeah, thank you. Because obviously, you know, we want to house our own residents before we're housing people out of London. I'm just wondering, I mean, obviously I'm not, you know, you're the professionals, but how easy is it to engage with landlords? Because it would be nice to have a sort of bank, if you like, and I presume you have got landlords that you regularly deal with. So instead of it being entirely flexible, so you have sort of availability, and it would provide some security for them that it was going to be used, and that might be an attractive way of, you know, for landlords.
Yes, so I've had the opportunity of working at a lot of different authorities, and what you find is that every authority, there's a little supply of landlords that they engage with quite regularly. That that's not to say there aren't new entrants all the time as well. There's the one-offs, and we always have those, but like you say, there are some people that are more regular. And the scheme is the scheme proposal that we're putting forward is designed to try and attract those landlords and keep them with us. So we're proposing a scheme where landlords that provide us with a certain number of properties in a certain period, like but essentially 4 properties in a month, will further increase their incentives, because we want to encourage pipeline and we want to encourage those relationships. And particularly with the Renters Reform Act coming in, given the uncertainty that creates, we want to build those strong relationships now before it comes in, so that people feel, actually, I feel safe using them because I've done it before and it's a positive relationship. I'll continue doing what I'm doing.
Can I also add into that, we are coming to Cabinet soon with our housing pipeline, where is our approach to modular. We're going to actually be investing the money that MHCLG. Yeah, so that is part of that sort of approach as well. So I think we've currently identified potentially 700 properties that we can bring into our social housing stock, but also we can use for temporary accommodation ourselves.
Just, you may not know this immediately. How long are people in temporary accommodation, how long are they likely to stay there before they're permanently rehoused? Because obviously it's like the bed blocking in the hospitals, isn't it? While you've got people there in the temporary accommodation, you can't use it for others.
So the time that people remain in temporary accommodation is a consequence of several factors. And so we're looking to try and address some of those. So one of the elements at the moment is that when people go into our temporary accommodation, they are given the right to bid, and their banding is increased according to the fact that they've been accepted and what have you. But there is no compulsion for them to act. Now, you know, if somebody's sitting in our own temporary accommodation that we own, let's say, they're sitting in a council flat, they're paying less rent than the social tenants next door because the TA rent is lower than the social rent, and they're in a council property with full repairing rights. Why would they be? There's no pull factor to do anything different, so they just sit. So one of the things that we're looking at is whether we can make the bidding process compulsory after a set period, so that the system bids for them automatically for any suitable property, and we will discharge into a suitable property. Because otherwise, there is no driver making them to, you know, kind of move. But equally, increasing the PRS supply then part of that will be about helping people move out of their temporary accommodation into those PRS properties and discharging into those properties. And the reality is more people that come into our homelessness system are discharged into the private rented sector than are discharged into council tenancies at the moment.
Yeah, thank you. I can see the appeal of staying there rather than going into really expensive private accommodation as well. So, yeah, okay, thank you.
Councillor Maney.
Thanks, Chair. Is it fair to say that London boroughs are probably better at finding private accommodation than Thurrock are? And why is that?
No. I can say that for certain. It's a very mixed bag. And at the end of the day, it's all about the quality of their scheme. There are some authorities that I've worked for. I think I've worked for just shy of half the London authorities, so 16 out of 33. And you'll find some authorities that have a very attractive looking scheme in terms of what they offer, but the way the scheme is administered, many landlords are put off it and they don't want to use it. And then you've got other authorities that have got quite a slick system, but they're not offering enough money, so they're not getting a look in. Where we are is we're fishing. Our pond is the same pond as for the London authorities, and our incentives aren't the same as their incentives. So we've got to match theirs if we're gonna have a chance. We can't be sitting there with a little fishing rod like that when everyone else has got their nets out trawling for this. So we've got to compete on a level playing field to try and attract people.
Thank you, Mo. A question I've got, the £250,000 homeless prevention grant, how's that going to be spent? And I suppose it's still not enough money really, is it? But, you know, how will this be distributed?
We've started putting initiatives together like the proposal for increasing the private rented sector scheme. We're looking at initiatives to how we can increase our TA portfolio in other ways as well. And as we develop those will include resource requirements, and that will then start to flesh out exactly how much of the prevention grant is for this initiative or that initiative. But we have, whilst we broadly know that we want to increase, and particularly because we're not spending enough on prevention as required by the MHCLG, so we need to push that further. But we know that things like the PRS incentive schemes, extra that we want to do in terms of temporary accommodation, that these are ways that we can refocus our resources towards that prevention agenda.
You might have answered this question, but just clarification. What would you say was the acceptable number of caseloads per officer? What mark are you trying to reach to say that it would be efficient service?
MHCLG will tell you 35 is about the right, somewhere between 30 and 35 is the right number of cases. I'd say it's more or less that, but it's case officer dependent. Some case officers just are, they're quick. They'll push things out quicker. Others take a more deliberate and but as long as everyone is achieving the minimum target, then that's a perfectly legitimate,
No? Okay. The allocation that we've received from NHCLG is 1.7 million. We're recommending 250 of that. It goes to launching a home visiting team. So we do get quite a substantial allocation from them, but we do need to ensure we're spending it in line with how they allocate, which is increasing the prevention. Yeah.
Thank you, Claire. Councillor Cecil.
Thank you, Chair. Those that you reject as homeless, do you put them on any prevention of homelessness list?
The Homelessness Reduction Act duties apply to anyone who is homeless. So there is a minimum level of duty, which is to assess their application, and if they are eligible, whatever else, we have to signpost and provide them advice and assistance. But the statutory duty is quite an important, significant element for us as well. The closer we are to the statutory line, the more efficient we are, the more risk averse we are about how we process our statutory applications, the less likely we are to be challenged, but the more money we're spending. Because being risk averse essentially means having more people in temporary accommodation than unnecessary. So that's the trade-off.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? No? Well, thank you, Councillor Hurrell, Mo, Claire, and I think, Tony, you got off lightly tonight, to put it mildly. Claire took the brunt of it, should we say. But it's an excellent presentation. It's something that is well overdue, and it's a major thing at Council that needs to be tackled, shall we say, and try and find some solutions. So thank you very much for that presentation. Are members okay with that? Yeah. Thank you. Thanks very much. So with that, we go on to item 7, out-term report. Councillor Maney's getting ready. See, it's not such a bad committee. They've been quite nice to you, aren't they? I'd like to thank Seema today, because there was one or two, should we say, issues that I wasn't sure about, and she was good enough to sit down and spend a bit of time with me as to go through them. So thank you very much, Seema. But so whoever's going to do the report, can I ask them to? Is it Seema or is it? It's Seema, right? Thank you.
It's me. Thank you, Luke. Thank you, Councillor. So what you have is the place overview and scrutiny report for outturn, which is 24-25, so last financial year. And what it shows is a general fund revenue outturn position of an underspend of 1.398 million that equates to 3% of the budget, which is really good news. And for a council that's in intervention, it is even better news, because obviously all our funding comes via exceptional financial support, so that contributes towards offsetting the debt. The underspend primarily relates to a reduction in employee costs in highways, transportation team, as well as other services across street scene and leisure, and that has been down to the services holding off on vacancies and not recruiting, so a really substantial effort on behalf of the services to hold back expenditure. And there's also been underspends against utility budgets in property services and reductions in expenditure against the waste disposal contract. Of course, we've heard about homelessness. The underspends have been offset by a significant overspend of 3 million on the homelessness budget, with continued demand and increased costs, which we've just discussed. The 24-25 position for place included savings of 5.04 million, which is a significant amount that was taken from the budget at the start of 24-25, with an excellent delivery of 91% fully delivered and 7% which were mitigated by the services by other means, and only one saving that related to temporary accommodation that was not delivered in full in the financial year with a part delivery. So a smaller proportion of that was carried forward and will be delivered in this financial year. The housing revenue account shows a provisional outturn of 5.3 million underspend. Now that has been transferred to a general HRA balances reserve. The reason for that was finances and recharges underspent by 2.3 million, primarily due to interest that we earned of 2 million on the money that was sitting in the reserves that had not been budgeted for in 24-25, which has now been corrected for in the budgets for 25-26. We have to have a HRA contingency that is prudent for risk management purposes of 2.2 million, and with careful operational management, this was unspent at year end. So successful bolstering of HRA reserves allows us to cover risks particularly interest costs of higher borrowing and inflation pressures on reprocurements such as repairs costs. And a review of the full HRA is ongoing in 25-26. That concludes, and I'd like to take questions.
Thank you, Seema, for your in-depth report. I must admit, there's a lot of work gone into that. There really has, and that's why I had to go and have a separate meeting today to try and digest some of the contents. Whether or not it's gone in, I'm not quite sure, but, you know, have members any questions for Seema or Councillor Morris-Cook? Yeah? Councillor Maney.
Thank you. So this is the right question on the right item. That's what you get when you type everything when you're coming from work. And yeah, it does show that I've read the agenda though, doesn't it? You may have already explained this to me, but why can't the 5 million be used for cheaper accommodation? Because obviously there's a 5.3 underspend, isn't there? Which is added to reserves, yeah? Do you see what I'm getting at? Yeah. Val says you don't.
Yeah, shall I explain? Okay. Shall I go first? Yeah. So there are very strict rules around the HRA. It is ring-fenced, whereas the accommodation, the temporary accommodation, is in the general fund. So very strict rules around what goes in the general fund and what goes in the HRA, and we have to follow those. So if at the year end we have expenditure that's in the HRA and the auditors come in and see expenditure that should have been in the general fund, for example, temporary accommodation costs and homelessness, we would be severely reprimanded for that and the accounts won't be signed off. So, you know, there are, you know, the developments, the recharges, the financing will all sit in the HRA when they're around the HRA properties. And we've got to make sure all costs associated with the temporary accommodation sit in the general fund and are funded by the general fund budget that sits in place. Do you want to?
I was explained that earlier, wasn't I? So I asked the same question, yeah, I must admit. Councillor Morris, thank you.
I was just going to say, I mean, the finance side of it is not easy to get a grip of, but if any of the committee members at any time, or the chair or the vice chair, want to know anything, I'm happy to sit down with them, and anything I can't answer, I'm sure I've got the most amazing team that would support, because it is really critical to get your heads around this. It really is, but it's not easy, if that makes sense. So if anybody wants some, you know, support, or, you know, just someone to sit down and go through and to talk through all the different things that we've got, treasury management, the medium-term financial strategy, the CD, there's so much. I'm more than happy to spend some time with you.
Thank you, Councillor. We've been told that there may be training for finance in the pipeline, which I'm going to be right up front for that.
It's something that I've asked for, and I know that the teams are doing it. But even then, there are, I mean, I still ask a lot of questions, and actually that's how you learn. And, you know, Jackie, there's no such thing as a stupid question, okay? Because when you're saying it, probably 7 other people are thinking it, okay? So just keep them coming.
Good thoughts. That is so true, so true. With that, though, I would like to look at the... No, you are. I just was amazed, realistically, how council is surviving when you look at the overall expenditure budget is 252 million for council, and we're actually borrowing 96.4 million pound as to get by. It's just amazing to think that that kind of money is needed. It has to get us through, so we supply the statutory services that council have to do. You know, it's mind-boggling, it really is. So I thank you very much. Any other questions? Councillor Penjal.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the detailed report, and just I want to ask, I want to know more about from the Appendix 1, General Fund Reserve, page backside page. Yeah, general fund reserve.
So the general fund reserves, if you look at it, we've probably got, I think, 80 odd million in reserves. 11 million of that is not earmarked. The rest of it is classed as earmarked reserves. And if you look through, you'll see where some of them are looking to be pulled forward. Now, not all of them are used at any one time. So what happens, and it's a general thing throughout authorities, we will use what is sitting in that fund at that time to fund other things, and it might be some capital grants to save us going out and borrowing. So we're not paying a high interest cost to borrow, but we have to ensure that that money is available should it be needed. So what the team are doing, and they do on a regular basis, is go through the earmarked reserves to actually see, is that still current? Is that still required? When is that going to be pulled on? Because if it's not been pulled on in a couple of years, it might as well go back and be released for something else to be earmarked for. Does that answer your questions?
Yeah, thank you for your explanation. Just I want to raise about this bus service improvement partnership. That section, I want to know more about that one. The bus services improvement, like a opening reserve balance for the 2024 and 25 showing negative balance 216,000.
That's not a negative balance. A minus in authority terms is a good thing. Okay? It's a good thing. It's very difficult to get your head around because where I've come from, I'd be rocking in a corner. But that means it was opening with a positive balance.
I want to know more about that one, 216,428, and the column final drawn down from the reserve, and also final contribution to reserves 333. And if you see overall balance 333 means that is a positive, even negative, but it is like we have funds to use, isn't it?
Yeah, so if I explain, we have a bus services improvement grant that comes into the local authority. So that grant is every year, so we will spend against that grant. At the financial year end, any money in that grant, we will draw upon that reserve when they need to utilise that reserve for expenditure they've incurred. But at the financial year end, we will then top up that reserve for any grant that they've got left over, so excess grant. Then at the year end, the following year, they'll have that balance, so that 333k is now available in this financial year, 25-26, for them to then call upon to use in this financial year. And the grant from this year, they can then use that for expenditure and this grant and top it up. So we will always keep a reserve of the grant income as well. And it's earmarked because it's a grant. So it can't be used for anything else apart from bus improvements. So they will spend expenditure. I will make sure that it's monitored. And then they can use the reserve for any expenditure. And at the end of the year, the grant is held in that specific earmarked reserve. So it can't be used for anything else. So we're clearly monitoring that grant.
Thank you for the explanation. I have one more question. That is only for the improvement of the bus services, means it comes under like a seating arrangements of the passengers, bus shelters also it will be utilized?
Councillor, so just to explain it a little bit more simplistically, we had an underspend on the grant last year that we've carried forward. We are coming to Cabinet soon with a bus service improvement programme for the following year, where we will utilise that underspend plus issues grant.
Thank you, because why I'm asking this specifically, because Everly deserve like a better bus improvement services. That's the reason I'm asking. If you have like a reserve funding is available so that we can able to make a request so that in coming up years we can able to utilize those funds. Just for that reason only I have asked this question. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you for everyone.
Thank you, Councillor. Seema, just another little question. When it says here, like in page 30, 1.8, and it's got external borrowing, is that always from government, I suppose, is it?
Yeah, so the council will borrow from markets as well on, you know, interest rates as part of the treasury management strategy that councillor mentioned, but it will be also from the overarching borrowing is from central government.
So, can I come in on this one? So obviously, because we're in intervention, we are really restricted on who we can borrow for. So if you ever look at the Treasury Management report against the strategy, we can only utilise AAA, and we have to go through a government where there are financial advisors there that will direct us to the best place within the government on where we can borrow from. So it can only be AAA, and it's very, very limited on what we can do.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions? No? Well, thanks very much. I mean, obviously homelessness is costing us more, but there's a lot of good things in this report, and you know, with the restrictions that council's under, it doesn't look too bad, does it? You know, it's got. I'm just. No, I was self-praise is no recommendation. I was always told by my mother, but then I used to say, who else would say it? So. But no, it's a very good report and in-depth one. Thanks very much, Councillor Morris-Cook and Seema. And with that, you probably might want to go asleep because of recommendations. So for the reasons set out in this report, the committee is recommended to. Now, do you want me to read all these, or should we do it en bloc and agree? Or should we, I read it, should I? So there we go. So for the reasons set out in this report, the committee is recommended to 2.1, note the provisional revenue and capital outturn for 2024-25 for place as detailed in this report. Sections 4.1.1, 4.5.1 and 4.6.1. Agreed? 2.2, note the overspend on homelessness of 3,126,000 will be partly offset by the use of 965 Contain Outbreak Management Fund, section 4.112. Agreed? 2.3, note the balance of the saving undelivered in 2024-25 in the amount of 110 will be carried forward for delivery in 2025-26, section 4.2.2. Note the transfer of the underspend on the housing revenue account, HRA, of 5,309,000 to the HRA reserve titled balances, HRA, section 4.1 of 4.4.8, sorry. 2.5, note that the provisional outturn figures presented for 2024-25 will be subject to the completion of the external audit or the council statement of accounts. Do we all agree? Thank you very much, everybody. And thank you for all the questions that was put forward there, because that was an in-depth, should we say, presentation. Item 7, work programme. Now I'm going to hand this one over to Lucy. If we've got our work programme sheets.
Thanks, Chair. So I won't go through the work programme and the action log and the recommendations tracker in detail because they're all in front of you. I just had one item to raise regarding a potential task and finish group that I've discussed with Claire and the Chair regarding the Tilbury Gravesend ferry and potentially having a task and finish group regarding that. I just thought I'd raise it as a discussion now, just in case members have any comments or are in support. But then really what the next steps will be is that I'll work with Claire and her team to draft a terms of reference and a scoping document and a full report around what the task and finish group can look at, who wants to sit on it, everything like that. And I'll bring that to the next Place ONS meeting at the end of November. So really that was the only item I had to raise and happy to take any feedback. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Lucy. Any questions? I mean, I think to have a task and finish group on the Tilbury ferry is required. At the moment, there's a lot of, we know there's, should we say, events going on behind the scenes. I know Claire keeps a finger on the pulse with that one, and so anything that's added to it can only help, hopefully, as to bring it back. So anyone that wants to put themselves forward for that committee? Councillor Lydiard, you would? Yes?
Yes, I'd like to, being a Tilbury councillor. It's the Tilbury ferry is absolutely important to most people in Tilbury, yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Lydiard. Got that noted, Lucy, yes? Right, okay. All right. Item 8 on the agenda, action, that's you as well, Lucy, action log.
Thanks, Chair. Again, with the action log, nothing specific to raise. Obviously, I'll include the actions captured from tonight's meeting, so they'll be updated, but happy to take any comments or questions.
Any questions for Lucy? No? No. Okay, Lucy, we've noted that one. So with that, you might as well go on to the recommendation tracker as well.
Thanks, Chair. Again, nothing specific to raise in the recommendations tracker. It's just a summary of the reports that we've received so far this year and the briefing notes that Claire and her team have circulated round. Again, happy to take any questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy. Any questions for Lucy? Councillor Sisterson?
Not really a question, but yeah, thanks for the briefing notes. They're always useful. Thank you. Sorry. Thank you, Claire.
Take the praise. Take the praise. Why don't you?
Also, actually, one relating to them, the Section 106 briefing note, it says there's going to be a further meeting, presumably like the one we had before, for forums to attend. And it did give a date, but just, I don't, again, we're not, but I wouldn't necessarily, I wonder if councillors could also be informed of the date and timing of that, because we're not always aware of if forums are told.
Yes, initially our commitment was just to meet forums, but we said we'll go away and review that. So we need to speak to the forums, and then we'll come back to you.
Right, thank you, everyone. We go on, Councillor Cecil.
The Stamford Station saga, where is that now?
So I will need to come back to Councillor Cecil. So we've got an up-to-date position for you, but work has progressed on it.
Thank you.
Right, I'd like to inform the committee that there's quite a lot on the agendas that's coming up, and just to make it a little bit more, shall we say, handleable, 3 main things on the agenda. We are looking to have 1 or 2 extra meetings. So we've got one during November, but we are probably looking to have one in December and possibly January, just to make sure that we cover all business. So, February, there we go. So it's December and February, yeah? I think so, yeah. Yeah, okay. Right, so we've got a lot of work in front of us, haven't we, Claire? Yes. So anyway, thank you very much for tonight's meeting and everyone's input. I really appreciate that. I think it was a good meeting with some good questions asked, and the reports that was put over was in-depth and very good. So thank you very much, everyone, for attending. And with that, I'd like to end the meeting at... Where are we? We are 8:12. How's that? Okay. You can get on to your EastEnders, Claire. How about that? Thank you, everyone. Good night. Safe journey.